You are watching Lo-Fi News. It is day 5 in the year 2021. Spy Talk has a groundbreaking report on China's top spy, the elusive and CCP-guarded Chen Wenqing. Tall and athletic looking according to official photos that only show him from the waist up, with a square jaw and black-dyed hair common among Chinese leaders. Chen has risen from local cop through the counterintelligence ranks to the top of China's feared Ministry of State Security, the MSS. Since its founding in 1983, the MSS has had a preeminent role in China's vast machinery of domestic repression. But Chen appears set to turn its foreign spying arm into an alarming deep presence in the United States and elsewhere, says Nicholas F. Tomades, one of the most well-informed former U.S. government officials on the Beijing's espionage apparatus. The MSS is China's preeminent civilian intelligence agency. It targets political and defense information, foreign policy, overseas dissidents, military capabilities, and foreign intelligence services. Meanwhile, in the cyber realm, the MSS competes with the notorious hacker group of the People's Liberation Army, who have repeatedly looted U.S. government files and raided corporate databanks. All in all, the MSS poses a grave threat to the economic well-being and democratic values of the United States, says the FBI. Despite Chen's preeminence, American intelligence officials are loath to say anything about him for fear that revealing the slightest personal detail could betray their sources and methods. Chen's big break came in 2012 as Xi Jinping summoned him to Beijing to be the right-hand man of Xi's closest confidant, Wang Taisong, head of the all-powerful Central Discipline Inspection Commission, or CDIC. Moving through its ranks in 2015, Chen became president of the Chinese Academy of Discipline Inspection, where Chen may well have managed to purge over 100 communist officials with the dismissal of no less than Vice Minister Liu Zhongwei, ousted, at least in part because one of his aides was among the dozen or so Chinese accused of working for the CIA between 2010 and 2012. The chairman of everything, as Xi is known, is by no means done reorganizing and rectifying Chinese intelligence. And Chen, his top spy, was to become chairman of everything in state security. In 2018, Xi named him deputy director of Central State Security, which is in part of the Central State Security Commission, the CSSC, created to tighten party oversight of Beijing's secret world. The MSS is becoming a top advanced persistent threat in their own right, with the PLA Cyber Unit 61398, aka the Comet Panda. Remember that unit number in the coming days or weeks. As global insecurity heats up, Xi Jinping orders China's military to be ready for war at any second as the country's armed forces begin this year's training and combat drills. In response to the Iranian seizure of a South Korean chemical tanker, South Korea has sent its naval commando unit to waters near Hormuz Strait. The South Korean flagged tanker has been traveling from Saudi Arabia to the United Arab Emirates when the Iranian Navy took control of it around 10 a.m. local time. Photographs appearing online show multiple small Iranian gunboats swarming the commercial ship. The crew of 20 are being held hostage by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces. Regardless of what the IRGC's exact reasons were for seizing the South Korean tanker, or how it may be intertwined within the larger geopolitical picture, this incident, as well as South Korea's immediate response to move military forces into the area, underscores just how complex and potentially dangerous the situation is right now in the region. Evidence of Iranian missile tests have appeared online at Khojur. Satellite imagery shows pre-test activity at a test stand in a scorched area on the flame deflector in what looks like a static engine test. Per Jabbar al-Zakari, the Zafar 2 Iranian satellite is ready to be launched. The only activity seen on satellite imagery comes from Sharaud launch pad, where on December 13th, the gantry was moved east from its central position. Venezuela, according to Admiral Fowler, commander of U.S. Southern Command, Iran has sent arms and dispatched IRGC elite Quds forces to Venezuela. We see a growing Iranian influence there, says Fowler, who told reporters, citing an alarming and concerning presence of military personnel from the elite Quds force of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Tehran has used the force to support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and other foreign allies and proxies. Iran is just one adversary backing the embattled Venezuelan leader. Thousands of Cuban intelligence and guard forces protect Maduro, while Russia has been training key elements of Maduro's military to be on the ready. Some of you will remember back in November when online pictures appeared and were geolocated to an air base in Maracay, Venezuela, showing a Russian Air Force AN-124 offloading a T-72 Russian tank. This morning, online pictures appeared showing Mohajar 6 drones with munitions at a hangar in Venezuela. The Mises Institute has a report on the Great Reset Part 3, Capitalism with Chinese Characteristics, giving insight of what the elites are attempting to achieve. The Great Reset represents the development of the Chinese system in the West, only in reverse. Whereas the Chinese political elite began with a socialist communist political system and implemented capitalism later, the elite in the West began with capitalism and are aiming to implement a socialist communist political system now. It is as if the Western oligarchy looked to the socialism on display in China and said, yes, we want it. This explains many otherwise seeming contradictions, not the least of which is the leftist authoritarianism of big tech, particularly big digital, which is the ideological communications apparatus for the advancement of corporate socialism or capitalism with Chinese characteristics. The Chinese characteristics that the Great Reset aims to reproduce in connection with Western capitalism would resemble the totalitarianism of the CCP. It would require a great abridgment of individual rights, including property rights, free expression, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of religion, and the free enterprise system as we understand it. The Great Reset would implement the political system in much the same way China has done with the 5G-enabled smart city surveillance, the equivalent of social credit scores, medical passports, political imprisonment, and other means of social and political repression and control. The essay goes on to state in the end, socialism with Chinese characteristics and capitalism with Chinese characteristics would amount to the same thing. The report can be found at www.mises.org. If you enjoyed today's Lo-Fi News, hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Godspeed and keep watch.